This
were
is
in
high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, look at Paige's face.
We were in high
Paige
school.
is in the picture, Aliyah Boston's in the picture, Caitlin Clark's is in the picture, and AZ Fudd's in the picture. And
it's kind of funny that we're all in like the same side too.
And you guys are teammates, so
yeah,
obviously catty corner teammates, which is unbelievable. It's crazy, the flashback, flash forward pictures, but
yeah, no, it's insane.
That picture tells a story nobody saw coming. High school rivals, separated by one of the most intense college basketball feuds in recent memory. Now wearing the same jersey, Raven Johnson and Caitlin Clark as teammates on the Indiana Fever. And if you think that transition is going to be smooth, Aliyah Boston just gave us a reality check about what's really about to happen in that locker room.
No, I think they had
hold on.
Which is crazy, man, because I said the same thing. How the hell is Minnesota getting the second pick? Where they getting this money at to sign all these damn superstars? Just think, Minnesota gave Natasha Howard $700K for God's sake, and she wasn't the only one, bruh. Like, they cutting big checks up in Minnesota right now. Them, the Liberty, Atlanta, a bunch of teams, man, getting money out the woodwork, and then not only do they get the money, they end up with the second round pick.
I think they had a trade with Chicago, and oh, okay, so there was a trade, I'm pretty sure, and then Minnesota got Chicago's first round pick.
So here's the actual story behind Minnesota landing that second pick. Back in 2024, the Chicago Sky made a franchise-altering decision. They traded away their 2025 first-round pick to Minnesota, along with additional draft capital, just to move up to 7th overall and select Angel Reese. At the time, it looked like a win for Chicago. They got their star, but the Lynx were playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. Fast forward to the 2025 lottery. Chicago's pick lands at number 2, except Chicago doesn't own that pick anymore. Minnesota does. So the reigning WNBA champions, the team that just won the title, suddenly have the 2nd overall selection. And they use it on Olivia Miles, one of the most complete point guards to come out of college basketball in years.
This is absolutely crazy. And then Seattle picking Awa Pham, Washington picking Lauren Betts. I think the surprise was number 5, Chicago again, is Gabriela Jaquez. And then we just go straight up Bruins.
Kiki Rice to Toronto.
Kiki Rice to Toronto, which shocked me a little bit. We got Martin to Portland. And then we got Flage, which was drafted by Golden State, but we'll get to that in a second. Raven Johnson, your teammate, fellow Gamecock. Cox up.
Cox up, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah, excited.
And I'm trying to look.
Washington's draft strategy deserves more attention than it's getting. They didn't just pick players. They built an entire offensive philosophy in one night. Lauren Betts at 5'11", Shakira Austin already on the roster, Kiki Rice at 7, Cody McMahon later in the draft. Every single one of these players thrives in transition. This isn't coincidence. This is Eric the Ball looking at the modern WNBA and recognizing that pace wins games. The Mystics are about to run teams off the floor. They're going to push in transition before defenses can set. They're going to create chaos with their athleticism. And if you're a half-court defensive team that relies on set rotations, Washington just became your nightmare matchup.
Through the rest of Gianna Neepkins is the one from she played for UCLA's
as well,
national championship team.
Medina Okot to Atlanta.
There you go.
I mean, they're big.
Gamecocks.
Cox up.
That was actually insane. It's like Atlanta's like, the whole world's going small. We're going to go big. Just going big all around.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts or reactions?
I felt like obviously the first 4, like we knew it was going to be those 4, just wasn't sure which order. Honestly, when you look at the draft picks all around Washington, their picks having like Lauren, Shakira, Kiki, Cody McMahon, like I feel like their offense is about to just be fast. Like their plan is probably just to run. Especially all the people they drafted, like the offenses was fast. Like even Cody at Ole Miss, like Coach Yo wants to push the ball, and that's exactly what she did. So I think that transition game is going to be pretty
Now here's where it gets interesting with Raven Johnson in Indiana. Aliyah makes a crucial point about roster construction that most people overlook. The Fever didn't just draft another guard. They drafted a defensive specialist who's going to spend every practice going up against Caitlin Clark. Think about what that means. Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark are two of the most dynamic offensive guards in the league. They need to see elite defense in practice to stay sharp. Raven Johnson provides that. She's not just a draft pick, she's a practice investment. She's the player who's going to make everyone else better by making their lives miserable 5 days a week. But there's another layer here. The WNBA expanded rosters this season. Teams can now carry more depth, which means they can afford to draft players specifically for practice competition. Johnson might not start, she might not even play major minutes early in her career, but her value to the Fever's development is massive.
Nice. I'm happy to have my girl Raven. I think Raven is gonna have a good W career. Like I'm excited that she gets to start it at the Fever. So we'll see. I'm excited.
I can't wait to hear about that first practice where it's gonna be a little awkward. I know that Caitlin Clark and Raven have probably talked since then, but it's got to be a little, especially when you're a defensive player like her, like you're going to come in, you're probably going to be playing against the first unit, to be honest with you. She's not probably going to start. And so you're going to be battling against her in practice. And the Fever, I think, have done a great job, obviously, of drafting. Some have fallen into their laps, and clearly you were the number one pick. Clearly Caitlin was the number one pick. But I do feel like there are ways to make your franchise better with the others.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Now with an expanded line.
The South Carolina-Iowa rivalry was personal. That 2024 Final Four game, when Iowa beat South Carolina and Caitlin Clark dropped 41 points, wasn't just another tournament win. It ended South Carolina's perfect season. It crushed their championship dreams. And Raven Johnson was on the floor watching it happen. So when Aliyah talks about fans having more beef than players, she's describing a real dynamic. Social media spent months debating Clark versus Reese, Iowa versus South Carolina, who deserved what recognition. The players moved on. The fans didn't. And now those same fans are watching two players from opposite sides of that rivalry become teammates. But here's what matters. Both Johnson and Boston played at the highest level of college basketball. They understand what it takes to win. They understand that college rivalries don't pay WNBA salaries. The question isn't whether they can coexist. The question is whether they can maximize each other's strengths.
Expanded roster, like you're able to draft to get people better and ready in practice.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's funny though that you say that, because even when Caitlin came, obviously in the year, like that year when they beat us in the Final Four, like it was actually kind of funny because I was like, wow, I'm really about to be teammates, and like you dropped 40 on our heads, like that was really trifling, like you didn't have to do that. But it's crazy because we actually did talk about it, because I felt like we had to talk about it. It was just one of those things that was like, wow, like no beef, obviously. Like it's so funny, like the fans always have more beef than the players actually do, so it's like always entertaining. You read all this stuff and like fans are hating on one person, hating on another, and then you are playing with that said person. And so I think it's gonna be fine. Like everyone has their thoughts, but like when you come in and you're in the gym and you're ready to hoop, like that's literally all it is. So I'm excited.
I just laugh because it really does mean something when you put a jersey on. Like you're really on that person's side.
Yeah, 100%.
And all this stuff before,
it literally doesn't matter.
It literally is. That's who you. I mean, at least on great teams, that's what happens. And so I just feel like both of you all have played at a really high level, and
that jersey changes everything. Aliyah's right about this. When you put on the same uniform, past history becomes locker room material for jokes, not genuine animosity. Great teams know how to weaponize shared history. They turn it into motivation. Picture the first practice. Johnson's guarding Clark in a defensive drill. She knows every move. She studied Clark for years as an opponent. Now she's using that knowledge to make Clark better. And Clark, who's faced every defensive scheme imaginable, is teaching Johnson how elite scorers think. That's not awkward. That's valuable. The Fever's front office understood this when they made the pick. They're not worried about college beef. They're focused on building a championship roster. And sometimes that means drafting players who have history with your stars, because that history creates competitive fire. Compare this to how other teams draft. Some franchises avoid controversy. They pick safe players who won't create waves. Indiana's doing the opposite. They're embracing the narrative, betting that professional athletes can separate college emotions from WNBA business.
Draft in which Kathy Engelbert was actually kind of defensive when asked about how much longer she'll be the WNBA commissioner. And Kathy's response was, I wonder whether you would ask that of a man. The reporter said I would. I kind of laughed because there are so many instances where we have to, get mansplained to or whatever. But I just know, like Roger Goodell, every single day people are asking whether he's going to return as commissioner of the NFL. So that was just kind of one of those things where I feel like she probably should have prepared for that question. Like her PR people probably should be like, hey, Kathy, people are probably going to ask you, this might happen. Responding with, would you ask that with for a man? And then the reporter just like
saying yes.
Now we need to talk about what happened after the draft, because it reveals something significant about WNBA leadership. Kathy Engelbert got asked a straightforward question about her future as commissioner. Her response was to suggest the reporter wouldn't ask a man the same question. The reporter immediately confirmed he would and has. This moment went viral for the wrong reasons. Engelbert's been commissioner since 2019. She's overseen massive growth in viewership, historic expansion, and unprecedented media attention. Those are legitimate accomplishments. But she's also faced criticism about pace of change, revenue sharing with players, and how the league has handled its sudden popularity surge. When a reporter asks about your future, that's not sexism, that's journalism. Roger Goodell gets asked about retirement constantly. Adam Silver fields questions about his tenure regularly. It's a standard question for any sports executive, especially one who's been in the role for 6 years during a period of massive transformation.
Yeah, I would.
My gosh, whatever.
It's just more funny. I think it's funny.
So that was Aliyah Boston cutting the ice with the Raven Johnson situation, man. I want to know y'all thoughts down below. Make sure y'all keep them bills on. I will be back with more content throughout the day. And until next time, man, shake the haters off. I'm out of here, baby.
Here's what this draft class represents for the WNBA's future. You've got Olivia Miles joining a championship caliber team in Minnesota, where she'll learn from Cheryl Reeve, one of the best coaches in basketball history. You've got Raven Johnson in Indiana, where she'll develop alongside established stars and learn what it takes to compete at the highest level. You've got Washington building an entirely new identity around pace and athleticism. The 2025 draft wasn't just about individual talent. It was about teams making strategic decisions based on their specific needs and competitive windows. Minnesota can afford to be patient with Miles because they're already winning. Indiana needs Johnson's defense immediately because they're trying to build a championship contender around Clark and Boston. Washington needs to rebuild their entire offensive system, so they drafted players who fit that vision. What makes this draft particularly interesting is how teams are thinking long-term. The expanded rosters mean you can develop players without sacrificing immediate competitiveness. You can draft for potential, not just immediate impact. You can take risks on players who might need time to adjust to the professional game. Raven Johnson's situation is the perfect example. She's not going to replace Kelsey Mitchell or Caitlin Clark in the starting lineup. But in 2 years, when the Fever are deep in a playoff run and need a defensive stopper to slow down an elite guard, Johnson will be ready. That's the value of patient roster construction. The college rivalry storyline is entertaining. It generates clicks and drives social media engagement. But the real story is about professional basketball players doing their jobs. Johnson and Clark will figure it out because they have to. Their careers depend on it. The Fever's success depends on it. And everything we know about both players suggests they're professional enough to make it work. Aliyah Boston's perspective matters here because she's lived this exact situation. She was the #1 pick. She joined a struggling franchise. She had to help integrate Caitlin Clark, another #1 pick, into the team culture the following year. She understands how professional athletes navigate these transitions, and her confidence that Johnson and Clark will be fine should tell us something. The fans will keep debating. Social media will keep creating drama. But inside the Fever's practice facility, two elite basketball players are going to compete, push each other, and ultimately make each other better. That's how championship teams are built, not by avoiding conflict, but by channeling competitive energy into collective success. So when you see those first practice videos, when you see Johnson and Clark going at each other in defensive drills, remember what you're actually watching. You're watching the Fever's front office plan paying off. You're watching two players who understand that professional success matters more than college pride. You're watching the beginning of what could be a dominant defensive-offensive partnership. The question isn't whether they can coexist. The question is how good the Fever can become when they figure out how to maximize this pairing. And based on everything we've seen from both players, that ceiling is higher than most people realize.